Hey guys, this is Crystal here with Livin soaps, and we make goat milk soap and other beeswax products like lotion bars and chapstick bars. And I just thought I would kind of show you first off that a lot of our ingredients start off as a solid, and this will all have to be melted down, and then you can see this is a liquid already, but all of these will be mixed together with this very important chemical, and it is lye, and it is very dangerous. It can burn you, but once it meets with all these oils and it mixes together, it will do something called saponification, and you generally have to let it cure for 4 to 6 weeks for the process to fully break down this lye so that it's not a danger to you or your skin. So it's a very interesting, sciencey kind of thing, and I really enjoy it, and I hope you guys enjoy getting to see me make us a batch of soap. Everything you do when making soap has to be weighed very precisely, which is why you'll see the scale right here. And then I will use this beaker and I will zero out my scale, and then as you can see, I have really large jugs of the oils that I use. So I always pre-measure into a smaller container and then pour into my bigger container that I will be soap making in. Because you'll need this whole glass jar to blend up all your ingredients, but you don't want to accidentally pour too much of one of your ingredients because it has to be very down to the little bitty scale. Has to be just very little bit. If you can tell by my glass containers, I have been weighing out all of my oils and dumping into there. This is my last oil, and I just need a very little bit of this. And then once I measure it, I will pour it into this container, and then in a minute I will microwave all of these oils, because these oils all have to melt down to where they're completely clear before I mix them together with my lye. And they have to be 120 degrees. And you know how hot that is, because just think in the summertime how hot it is. And we're going to be heating these oils up to that temperature. And that's also why they're in a glass container, is so that they will heat in the microwave more evenly. So in just a second we will be putting this into the microwave to melt all of these oils so that they can mix together and incorporate very well. Our very next step, once we have all of our oils into our container and microwaving, which one of them is microwaving, I'm sure you can hear the microwave going, but our next step will be to measure out our goat milk. And because lye gets so hot, you have to freeze your goat milk before you use it to make soap, or it will start being really stinky when you put your lye in there with it, which is not something you want, because you don't want a stinky nasty soap. So you will take your milk and you will weigh it out, and you need 11 ounces of this milk. So you we freeze it into a gallon baggie, and then we just bust it up with a hammer into kind of smaller pieces to make it a little bit easier to turn into soap. So I bet I'm right at it. I'm getting really close, but you can see it's on my scale right here. And you're going to measure out just the right amount, and that's perfect right there. So I'm going to set the rest of my milk down here for later for me to put back in the freezer. So now that I have this measured out in this glass container, and it's very important to use a glass container, because if not, when you put your lye into there, your very dangerous stuff, look, it even tells you don't touch it, it's poison. So it's very dangerous stuff. So when you put it in here with the milk, it's going to start melting that milk, and the milk's going to get really hot as it's melting. So that's part of, like I said, that's why we have to make it frozen. But you will put this into here after you weigh it all out, and it will start melting the milk. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then I will show you in just 1 second. And when you're messing with lye, you need to use a material that is kind of metal, so you need to use like a stainless steel and a glass. But I have my scale ready, and here's my lye, and I'm going to pour it in there. And you have to be, like I said, you have to be really kind of careful, because if this gets on your skin, it can burn you. So you want to be really very careful and very slow when you work with this. And that right there is all it takes to make a whole batch of soap. It's just that very little bit. Then I'll put my lid back on this and put it away, because I don't want it to accidentally spill on me. Because you have to be, like I said, you have to be really careful with this. So I'm going to scoot it over, and here's my glass bowl of my goat milk ice. And I'm going to take my lye, and I'm going to very carefully hold it. And then you just kind of pour it in here. And as it starts mixing, you only want to pour a little bit at a time so that it doesn't melt too fast. Because some people make their soap with water, and if you make it with water, it can get extremely hot and possibly bust your glass if you add it in all at one time. But I will sit here and I will stir this, and it'll kind of take a minute because these are such big chunks of ice. But you can kind of see in the bottom, it's already kind of getting slushy. See right there? It's kind of wet, and it's melting that ice down. And that's what we want it to do, so that our ice will be all melted. So I'm going to go ahead and melt this down, and then I'll show you what we'll do next. And while we let that kind of melt for a little bit, I'm going to show y'all a couple of things that you can add to your soaps. Like if you want your soaps to smell nice, you'll add something called a fragrance oil. And they have all different smells of these. This one, as you can see, is called Greenhouse. And it kind of smells like plants a little bit. Or I also have some that smell like honey or lavender, or maybe like snow, or maybe some good apples. And today I think I'm gonna use one that's kind of a manlier scent, and it's called Kentucky Bourbon, and it smells really good, and a lot of people buy it for their husbands because it smells really nice. But I wanted to show you guys kind of a couple of things that you can add to your soaps if you're making soap. You can add things like salt to the top of your soaps to make it look pretty, or you can add things like flower petals to the top of your soaps to make it look pretty. And I can add things like these little seeds to make it where they go inside your soap, and they can make it kind of scrubby on your skin, which will feel nice. Or we can add things like oatmeal inside the soap batter, and it will make it really soft to where it feels really nice on your skin. And all those are just different options for how you want to make your soap. Now, something I love to do to my soap is add colors. And colors are so fun. So I have all kinds of colors. Do you see all those colors? And I basically have the whole rainbow for me to use anytime on any of the soaps I want. So you will mix these in with your soap batter once you get it all mixed up, and that will make your soap turn whatever color you choose to make it. And I think today, since we're making a soap that's going to be for Valentine's Day, we're going to do some fun colors, because everybody loves fun colored soap, I think. And I think you can see pretty good that while I was showing you guys those colors and the smells, the fragrances, that my lye has been melting my ice. So I will just continue to stir that until it's all ready and melted down really good. Because like I said, we want that to be no ice left in there. We want it to all be melted down really good, really solid. So I'm going to add my last little bit of lye. And you let this happen kind of slow, because you don't want it to go too fast, and then it will burn your milk and make your milk really stinky. And then you just froze your milk for no reason, because then your milk is all stinky anyways. So you add that really slow. You add your lye, and then you'll just stir until there's no ice left in your mixing bowl. And like I said, you have to be really careful. So you want to stir really slow. You want to be really easy. And while this is melting, I know that it's not going to get hot too fast. So I can just kind of sit it over here and let it melt a little bit more really slowly. And while I do that, I'm going to check my oils. Yes. And I was hoping I would get to show you this, and I'm going to. Okay, there are different types of oils, and some of them are a liquid and some of them are a solid. So you can see these kind of little chunkies in here, and I have to stir my oils. This was those that look like this before I heated them. See the difference? When they get warm, they all turn into a liquid versus being still kind of gloopy in the other bowl. So I will stir these and they will all melt into the warm oil. And you want your oil to be warm so that it melts and breaks down all the little fatties that are inside those oils. And that's also why you want your lye to be all the way melted and all your ice gone, so that it can mix really well with this bowl of oils. Now while I'm letting this melt and these oils melt, I'm going to have you guys help me and or watch me make some rainbow colors. So I have these little silver mixing bowls, and we're going to do a very bright green and a very bright purple and a really bright pink and a really pretty blue. And we're going to use all these colors. So I'll need 4 containers to put my colors in and blend them all up so that they turn out really pretty. And I'm going to put just a little drop of oil in the bottom of each of these containers, and then I'm going to show you what we do and how this works. You'll take all your little baby oils, and I just poured just a little bit in there, and then you're going to scoot them all over and you're going to blend them up in order of the color. So I think that the pink should maybe be there, and then we'll do purple and green and then blue, because we're going to use this really neat little baby mixer that you push a button and it spins, and it's going to mix these colors up into this oil. So I need my little baby measuring spoon, and then we will get to mixing. And you can see I've got all my colors out here, and now I've got a little baby measuring scoop, because the cool part about this is you don't need a big bunch of color. You just need a really little bit, and it'll still make your soap really bright. So whoa, look at that. That is the brightest pink. And you're just going to take a little bit. I usually do 2 scoops, and then I'm going to put it in there. And then that's why I did them lighter to dark, so that I can just put the lid back on, because we don't want to accidentally spill these. They would make a big mess. So we will open our next jar, and then see that really pretty purple, and it's just powder. And then you're going to put 2 scoops of that. Then you'll put your lid on, and then you're going to do that for all your colors. So next we'll do our green. This green is one of my favorites. It's so very bright. So I'm going to put it in here. And then, our last color is this really bright blue. And it is one of my favorites. That's why I got it in a big jar, because I love to use this blue. And you'll see that it's kind of little chunkies. I don't know if you can see or not, but there are kind of little balls in here, which is why we have to mix it up. Because if we just put that in our soap batter and there was little clumpies, then when we used it on our skin, it would turn us blue and pink and green. So we don't want that. So then you will take your color. I'm going to kind of hold this where you can see. And you want to be sure all this is kind of in that oil first. Because if you push the button on this, woo-wee, it blows some powder right up in the sky. And then you'll push this button, and it's going to mix all that color in that oil and make sure there's no clumpies. And you'll see just how pretty that turns. And then we're going to do that to every color. So you'll take it and you'll push it down in there and you'll stir and then you'll mix it all up. And if you do it in the right pattern, then you won't have a big old mess where your colors don't turn out good because they mixed. So we're going to take all this. We're going to try to get all that green in there because it's going to make a poofy mess. All right. And then we're going to blendy. And this little blender is so handy because I used to do this with just my hands and that was not easy because this is hard to get these little bumps out. So once I get this last one, then we'll see if our milk has melted enough to be able to mix with our oils. So now we're going to take all these and we kind of want to scoot them over because we don't want to accidentally spill them. So I'm going to scoot them right over here by the camera and you guys won't be able to see them, but that's okay. We'll know they're there. And now look at this. Our milk is almost no more ice. See how it's turning that really kind of yellowy color? That means that we did a good job and we didn't put too much lye in there too fast. So now we'll stir. And our oils, I'll show you those, have all the way broken down. There's no more clumps in there at all. See, there's nothing in there. It's all clear. And that's how you want it. And now in just a second, I will show you what we do next. And now our goat milk has finally melted all the way down. And that's exactly what we wanted. And I'm going to use this strainer, and I do that just in case there's any lye that didn't melt. Because you don't want any lye to be in your soap because it could make little pockets that burn your skin. So, like I said, you have to be very careful when you make these recipes. So I will take my spoon, do one final stir, and then I'm going to put my spoon in my bucket that held my lye. That way I know it's out of my way and it's safe. It's not going to be accidentally burning me. And then I'm going to pour all this liquid through my strainer. That's all my milk. And if you'll remember, I have this whisk, or not whisk, but spatula down here. So I'm able to clean that jar out, make sure I get all the milk. And because this is goat milk instead of water, it's not clear and it has fat inside of it. So I have to stir it around to kind of help push that fat. See, you see all that? That's the fat from the goat milk, which is why people like goat milk soap, because it's really soft on your skin because of all those fats in there. So I will kind of scoop that around until it pushes all that fat down through my strainer. And you can see I'm just kind of pushing just real easy, and it'll drip down in there to my bowl in the bottom. And we want all that fat. We don't want to waste any of it because that's why we use the goat milk. It's just for that reason right there. And if I was not using goat milk, we wouldn't have any of this. That would all just be clear and it would all just run right through. So now we've got all of our fat ran through. We don't have any little chunks of lye. But look at that. My strainer caught a little chunk of purple that I bet was in my bowl. I think it may have been a little piece of leftover soap. But now I will set this over here back on top of the bowl that had my goat milk in it when it was melting. And now is when the fun part starts. Now is kind of a fast process. Not super fast, but pretty fast. So I want to have my mold all ready. And we have lots of different kinds of molds. There's this tall skinny mold, or you can get kind of a short fat mold, or you can even get molds that look like things. Like, let's see, I have this mold. It looks like a flower or a plant. And then this one is honeybees. And your soap can look like anything you want it to. I even have a dinosaur mold. So, I use these big molds right here for when I'm making batches for grown-ups. So now that I've got all this poured in here, I'm gonna try to get all that off my scraper, my spatula. And then I'm going to introduce the most important tool that I have, which is the stick blender. And you'll see this. This is just what mixes the stuff all together. And you put it in there at an angle so that you don't get air bubbles, because air in your soap makes it kind of look silly whenever it's finished making. And then I will plug it in, and when I use this, it's going to mix the oils and the lye together. Like, see how that does? And you're going to do that until it starts to thicken up. And then you'll see now it's all mixed together, and that's the start of your soap. So you'll want to keep mixing and keep mixing. And you don't mix for very long before it will start to thicken together. And you can see that it's kind of drooping off my spatula or my blender. And that's right where we want it. We don't really want to mix it anymore because we have to add all of our colors. And to do that, we have to take this off for right now because we don't want it to fall over. And it does have the lye water or the lye milk solution. And then we're going to take these individual little containers, and see they have a cute little pour stuff. And that's so that we can just pour the soap in any pattern we want. But now we're going to separate all of our batter. And we try to get the same amount, but it's okay if it's not. And you're going to make a little bit of a mess if you're me. But since we have 4 colors, I needed 3 of these containers to pour into. And we're going to pour into there and pour into there. I need to remember to leave some in my big container or I'll forget, and then we'll only have 3 colors of soap. So now I'll show you what happens. Okay, remember I said we're going to use a smell, so I had to weigh that out. And the smell you're going to split up between all your containers. So you want just a little bit in each one so that all of your colors smell. Now sometimes your colors, like sometimes your smells, your fragrances will make the soap turn different colors. So you can't use it with certain colors. But this fragrance doesn't change the colors. So I'm going to just take my colors and pour each container into these mixing bowls. And I just kind of shake them around. And there's still some left. So if I don't like the color, like if it's not bright enough for me, I can always add some more. Then you're going to pour all your colors in, and they are so bright. Then I'm going to hold up the first one I'm going to mix, and I'm going to use my spatula from earlier. And the first one I'm going to mix together will be the pink, because remember we do it by color. And sometimes if the color's kind of too runny, like see how that's kind of runny, then I will use my blender again. Because you don't want it to be too hard, or then they won't look pretty when they mix together, but you don't want it to be too runny either, because then it's not ready to make yet. So now I'm going to use my blender. And see how pretty that pink is? I'm going to do that to all my colors really fast. So I'm going to put it in my purple now, and I'm going to move my pink over so that you can see me. And I'm going to stir with my hand first, and then I'm going to mix it like this. And then it's going to mix, mix, mix. And then I'll do all my colors. So next it's green. I know that's kind of noisy. You should hear it in here. It's definitely noisy on this little building. So I'm going to mix my blue. And sometimes, like, if you don't like the color, you can add more. But I think these are going to be perfect because I ended up using a smell that smells like the ocean. But now that I've got all those in there, and you can see them, now's the fun part, which is to decide how you want your soaps to look. So I'm going to stir these and make sure they're not too thick. And then I'm going to pour them in my mold. And I decided today that I'm just going to do a fun little pour. So you take your mold and you sit it down, and then you're just going to pick up your container and you're going to pour your colors however you want to. And they're just going to go in your mold. And you're going to be really careful not to spill them because that'll make a big mess. And you don't want to waste your soap. So, now we've got pink and green. Let's see what color we'll do next. Let's go with purple so that it's not next to the blue. And then you're going to pour your purple. And then you'll get your blue. And you can kind of see it kind of looks strange in there. But when I'm pouring it like this, that makes the color go all the way to the bottom. Which is what we want, because we want them to kind of mix together to make a really pretty, really light colored. And right here I'm going to kind of pour really close to my mold so that this pink just stays right on the top here. Because I don't want it to fall through into those other colors because I'm going to do a layer now. So I've got this, and then you kind of shake your mold to make sure there's no air pockets. And then you can do your green. But see what I mean by if you do it like this, then it kind of stays on top instead of falling down through there. And that's all just about how you want it to look. And I saved some of my color to put on top of my soap whenever it's all finished. So I'm going to swirl that around to make sure it's not setting up, and then I'll pour it on top really easy too. And see how it kind of moves everything out of the way? That's what happens when you pour it close versus up high in the air. And then I'm going to do my blue. And my blue will be really close to the top of my soap. So I'm going to mix it really good because I want to get a really good layer of my blue. And I'm going to go ahead and pour it really careful. Really, really careful. Really close. But see how it makes those cool little swirls in there? If I was pouring from up big, it would fall down through. And since I want to use all my blue, I'm going to hold my bowl and I'm going to scrape with my spatula. I'm going to scrape all this soap out so that I can make a blue top. And then I'll scrape my other bowls and add different colors on top of this blue, because you want to use all the soap that's in your bowls. So now that I've got all my blue, and I'm going to put that bowl down out of the way, and I'm just kind of going to move that around really gently because I don't want to poke through, but I also want that blue to be the whole thing. So I'm going to pull it really easy with my spatula. And now I've got a blue top. So now I can add my fun colors just all crazy on top. And I usually just scoop them with my spatula so that I can kind of pick where they fall. And I want to do some purple splotches. And then, let's see, what will we do next? We're going to do pink maybe next. Let's go ahead, and I think that's enough purple. So now I think I'm going to do green next, just for fun. So now I'll get my green, and I want to try to drop it not on the purple, But it doesn't matter because I am going to mix them with a stick or something. So I'm going to do that. And we don't want it to all just be on one side, so we're going to go ahead and drop some there. And I think that looks pretty good. I think now it's time for some pink. So I'm going to go ahead and get my pink bowl. And I'm going to make sure that it's still not too hard. So I'm going to stir it just a little bit. Then I'm going to scoop it and drop it on top. Because I want some of that blue to show too. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit more pink because we want it to be on every bar. So we'll do that. And then I think that's pretty close to done. I think I'm going to do one more drop of pink right there, kind of bigger. And then I'm going to use this little stick right here. And I'm going to swirl all that together. Just to make it look pretty. So you just swirl it however you want to. But I like to drag it where it makes all the colors kind of mix, but it still looks pretty. And then your very final touch is to take some alcohol, like rubbing alcohol out of your bathroom, and you're going to spray it on top. And that will keep it from changing colors and getting something called soda ash on top. So I will spray that, and then I'm done. This mold, this loaf of soap is all done. And you can kind of see it's really fun colored. I really like it. I think it's going to be really pretty. And then it has to sit in this mold for 2 days before I can take it out. And then I will show you similar to what a final product would look like. Right here is a soap that I used something called a hanger swirl tool for. I'm going to try to get it out from underneath my tripod. Sorry. I didn't realize I set my camera on top of it. But this right here is a tool that you would sit down inside your mold like this, and you would just kind of pull it up and down through that soap, and that would create this little swirl that's right here. And I really think these kind of soaps are fun. And see right here, this top is a lot like this top will be. I just kind of swirled it around when I was making it. And then here's another soap that was just kind of fun. And it's all different colors. And then it's even got glitter on top. But these all smell different. And the fun part about making this soap is that you can make any soap you want. You can make it any smell you want. So it's just a really fun project, a really fun pastime. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me make this batch of soap. And I'm going to send some soap for you to get to smell and see and touch. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys learned something. And I hope you maybe think that science and soap is cool and kind of goes hand in hand. So bye guys, have a good day.